Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Yes, that is right, my friends. Hour 2 of today's program of the Todd Huff Show. It's my pleasure to be here. I want to talk this hour. Tim Walz out there explaining why Kamala chose him to be her running mate in 2024. The stupidity of this stuff is a lot for me to take in. But I'm going to share that with you. We've got Gavin Newsom, the governor of the People's Republic of California, out there saying he is doing Doge, but he's doing it better than the original, the OGs at Doge. Hakeem Jeffries wants the Dems to cool it regarding all these trips to El Salvador. Folks, I got a lot in the stack of stuff, but I want to start with Tim Walz. We'll do that in a moment. I also want to start by telling you that we are wrapping up our lifetime membership offer to the Inner Circle. You want to become a founding member of the Inner Circle. You can become a lifetime member of this. A founding member who's a lifetime member, that means you're in for as long as we have the program and as long as you're here with us, my friends. It's only $99, lifetime membership, bonus content, all sorts of things behind the scenes. We're going to build this. I'm looking for some movers and shakers, the leaders, the folks who really want to see our ideas create things that aren't just theoretical, that actually create good results, help us all to become better, not bitter. You can do that by you can find out more information or join by going to toddhuffshow.com/join. Again, toddhuffshow.com/join is where you can go for that. That offer of lifetime membership will be ending here very soon. All right, so let's start here. Today. By the way, thank you for those who have signed up to become lifetime members of the Inner Circle. Now, let's get into this. This is New York Post. I tell you what. Tim Walz. You remember Tim Walz. Some folks refer to Tim Walz as Tampon Timmy. Tim Walz was the vice presidential candidate for the Democrat Party. He was the running mate of Kamala Harris. This is an article that was published yesterday. Tim Walz said Harris picked him for VP to, quote, code talk to white guys, written by Deirdre Heavey of Fox News, but it's posted here at the New York Post. Former Democratic vice presidential nominee, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, continued a self-described listening tour across the country at a Harvard Kennedy School forum on Monday night, ruling out a 2028 presidential bid and revealing why former Vice President Kamala Harris chose him as her running mate. That is amongst the longest sentences I've ever read. Walz said Harris chose him in part because, quote, I could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, and he, quote, put them at ease. Did Tim, listen to my fellow white guys out there listening to the program today. Did Tim Walz code talk put you at ease? What does this even mean? Was there anything about Tim Walz being on this ticket that puts you at ease? This is insane how these people think. The Minnesota governor, going back to the article here, described himself as the, quote, permission structure. Permission structure. You can vote for the black lady because the white guy says you can. He gives you... What in the world is wrong with these buffoons? This is... I'm dumbfounded by this. He's the permission structure for white men from rural America to vote for Democrats. Oh, there's more to this. I think I'll give you pretty good stuff, but I'll also give you 10% problematic, Walz added when pushed by moderator Brittany Shepard, an ABC News national political reporter, about why he didn't take that message to cable news to reach a larger audience. Yeah, that would have done it. That would have done it, Brittany, if Tim Walz would have just gone onto the cable news outlet to reach the white guys so he could talk to them in code about playing football, watching football, fixing their truck, giving them a permission structure to vote for a black female presidential candidate. What in the world is going on in the minds of these people? This is a sickness. This is an illness. I don't know. Listen, I'm not a guy that turns to prescriptions, but I think if you're out there and you're a scientist, you might want to look into this. Is there a formula you could give someone to stop this wave? And I'm kidding, because someone will take me seriously on that. But this is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Walz laughed off criticism over inconsistencies in his background on the 2024 campaign trail, describing himself as a knucklehead. That I can agree with. Walz told CNN's Jake Tapper earlier this month that he was considering a third bid for Minnesota governor, but was not thinking about running for president in 2028. When asked by Shepard to explain, Walz said the Democratic Party should run a collective 2028 what the heck does that mean? A collective 2028 presidential campaign. I think we need to collectively run a presidential campaign without a candidate right now that builds all the infrastructure. By the time we get to 2028, we're ready. So they want to run a presidential campaign without a candidate. I don't even know if I understand what that means. What does that mean? This guy, knucklehead, is well short of what we're dealing with here. And on what he would have done differently in 2024, according to the article here in New York Post, Walz said, "We would have won." Oh gosh. Man, these are such stupid answers. This guy is a knucklehead, is getting in the vicinity, but just barely. Acknowledging that Democrats came up short in November, Walz said the party is, quote, better off doing more in every forum, following criticism that Democrats didn't prioritize media appearances enough in 2024, whether long-form podcasts, I should say, or traditional network news shows. There is room for Gavin Newsom's podcast, and there is room for Bernie Sanders' rallies, Walz said, as he described both instances as opportunities for Democrats to reclaim their own narrative. So the takeaways from this are Tim Walz is absolutely as unqualified to be vice president as we thought, probably more so, number one. Number two, Tim Walz is not, if you're in Minnesota, I'm sorry, I've got relatives, I've got in-laws that live in the state of Minnesota. Forgive me for saying that incorrectly, Minnesotans, but Minnesota, he's not fit to be your governor. I'm sorry you got to put up with this guy. Didn't I see the other day, our friend Mike Lindell made a comment about thinking about, I don't know if he was joking, serious, but talked about running for governor. I would like that. You deserve anybody over this guy, this self-proclaimed knucklehead running your state. But he said he's not running for president in 2028. That's, I guess, promising news. I don't know. But what is this thinking? What is this thinking? I am so sick and tired of this incessant focus on what I call superficialities, the color of somebody's skin, what socioeconomic group, all this stuff. We are human beings, first and foremost, created in the image of God, by the way, who have been given our rights from God, not from our government, who thinks that they can control, not under Trump, but who over a long period of time think that they are the gods over us. That's not the way that it works. We empower the government, not the other way around. In fact, there's a constitutional concept, a concept in the foundations of this government, of our system of government, that says the consent of the governed. You don't come in and tell us what to do and then we oblige federal government. Instead, what happens is we give you our specific consent to do specific things in a defined area. That's your job. That's what you should be doing. Get your nose out of everything else stay in your lane and leave us alone. That is what that means. And the left is wrong. I don't think if I set out today, if I said I'm going to be George Costanza today and do the opposite of everything I would have normally done, and instead of seeking to be right or do good or whatever, I deliberately tried to be wrong, and I deliberately tried to just create problems or whatever. I don't think I could achieve what the Democrat Party has achieved. It is a remarkable feat. They are wrong, and they are causing problems galore. And one of them is the amount of focus that's put on people's race, gender, ethnicity. I tire of it. And I know most of you do too. The vast majority of you aren't sitting there every day preoccupied with the identity, so to speak, of the people around you. These are people. These are coworkers. These are neighbors. These are family members. These are friends. These are colleagues. What the world is going on here? Why in the world would we need to think in terms of Kamala picking a guy that gives white guys the permission structure to vote for her? Listen, Ben Carson was a presidential candidate in 2016. I know many of you loved Ben Carson. Many of you thought Ben Carson would have been a great president. I liked a lot about Ben Carson's a fantastic human being. Ben Carson also happens to be black. If Ben Carson would have won the nomination in 2016, 100% I would have voted for Ben Carson. Marco Rubio ran in that election, in that campaign. Ted Cruz ran in that campaign. Both Hispanic. If they would have won the nomination, I would have voted for either one of them to be president of the United States over Hillary Rodham Clinton. But it had nothing to do with, it had to do with their ideas. Bobby Jindal, an Indian American, was on that list of candidates. I liked a lot. I don't know where Bobby Jindal, he's faded into, I don't know what he's doing now. But he was a promising politician on the conservative side, the Republican side. I would have voted for Bobby Jindal in a heartbeat as president of the United States if he was our nominee in 2016. But it wasn't because of any of those things. I mean, you go down the list of people that were in that campaign. And all, by the way, the Democrats could give us in 2016 were 4 old white guys, one of them being my dear friend, sexy Martin O'Malley, 4 old white guys in a Clinton. That's what they gave us in 2016. But this incessant focus on what divides us, what makes us different, all of this stuff, it reminds me of something it's in the stack of stuff. It's been there for a while. You might have followed Shadur Sanders. He was the son of NFL legend Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders was a menace. He played defensive back. He played Major League Baseball too. Deion Sanders was one of the best athletes to ever step onto a football field. And he was dominant at his position. He was cocky. He was a showboat. He was also hurting and in trouble. He's got a great story. He came to Jesus. But Deion has, he's a coach now. He coaches at Colorado, the Colorado Buffaloes. And his son transferred there as well. They turned that program around. His son was quarterback. He had another son there as well. Bottom line here is that Deion has got a big personality. That some of that, not all of it. I think Shadur, by comparison, is not as big of a personality as Deion, though it's still a big personality. But the draft came up. The NFL draft was actually a week ago today through last weekend. NFL draft. Shadur Sanders was considered by some the number 1 pick. They thought he would be top 5, 6, 7 picks. He didn't go until pick 144 or some such thing. And there's commentary out there, including commentary from former Representative Jamal Bowman. He's the one who pulled the fire alarm in our nation's capital to avoid having to go vote on something he didn't want to vote for, trying to stop democracy, right? I mean, if someone else did this, that's what they would be accused of, interfering with our democracy, interfering with the way our system works. That's what he did. He's now out there blaming white people for being racist that caused Shadur Sanders to drop to pick 144. What does this have to do with his race? The first pick in the NFL draft, who also was a black quarterback. Same position, same race, Cam Ward, number 1 pick. Over half the NFL, the players are black. About 1 in 5 coaches, 20% of coaches in the NFL, head coaches approximately, are black. What is this talk about Shadur Sanders not being picked because he's black? This is stupid. I'm sick of this stuff. I'm sick of it. Maybe it had to do with the fact he didn't go to the NFL Combine. Maybe it had to do with the fact that some of these teams have said that he was sandbagging his interviews with teams he didn't want to be drafted by. I don't know if that's true. By the way, I'm not even saying this stuff should be released, but it's out there. This is a kid. I don't want to see this guy attacked and tarnished. I actually find myself rooting for him here. I want him to succeed, regardless of his race. I don't care about this stuff. NFL teams don't either. At the end of the day, what they want are good players, and they want players that they think have good character. And they had questions about this, it seems like, with Shadur. Maybe they're dead wrong, but they had questions about this. It wasn't because he was black. They're also probably concerned a little bit about his father. His father, who's a coach, who's followed, or his children have followed him from one program to the next. He went from, what was it? Forget the school in Florida, Jacksonville State, maybe. That may not be right. A school in Florida. Then he got Shadur was there. Then they transferred to Colorado, and they went there. I'm not even faulting that, but will there be pressure? Will there be pressure from Deion or others to hire Deion to be your team's coach? Is that really what? I mean, I don't know. But to say he wasn't picked because he was black is just insane to me. There's not even the slightest bit of evidence that that's accurate. There could be another 50 explanations as to why. Some people say he had the personality of a number 1, starting quarterback, but you can't have that personality as the backup. You can't have a big, braggadocious, overly confident, outspoken guy that might be undermining your decisions, the starting lineup as the backup. I don't know, but these are all much better potential explanations than the NFL is racist against black players. It's ludicrous. And it leads me back to this conversation with Tim Walz. Tim Walz being picked. The only people that think this way, are people who think that, I guess, on one level we're different. See, I think of us as I think of us as humans first, and I think of us as Americans. I think of us in terms of we all have a desire. We're all created in the image of God. All of us are image bearers of our Creator. All of us. Each and every single solitary one of us. All of us have dreams, goals, ambitions, likes, desires, preferences. All of us do. All of us seek to live the life that we want to live freely. That's what we desire, that freedom. We desire to be able to, again, live as we want to live. Now, we may have differences in what we prioritize and all of that, but those are decisions based upon our individual preferences. You can't lump them into a box and say, these are what white people want. Listen, we are created in the image of God. And I think if you appeal to these larger issues, if you appeal to these things that we're all wired internally to prefer, if you speak to these truths, these deeper truths about our desire to be free and prosperous and be able to pursue our dreams and speak our minds and all that sort of stuff, you'll appeal to all people regardless of their race, gender, ethnicity. The idea that you got to get some washed up tampon Timmy here, as some people call him, to help reach out to white guys who watch football and fix their truck? Listen, I watch football. There's nothing about Tim Walz that made me more receptive to Kamala Harris because he could talk about football. Who even thinks that way? And by the way, if we are thinking that way, if that's the reality of the politics, and I know that there are people that vote for the stupidest reasons for one candidate over the other. I know that. But if we're admitting this, then we need to be educating people better in the public school system. Ideas matter. Well, not just in our public, just overall. Ideas matter, not whether a guy can talk about football with me. He doesn't earn my vote because of that. Because he can fix a truck and that makes me comfortable. What does that have to do with anything? What does that have to do with anything? I know not one man. I know literally 0 men who were more inclined to vote for Kamala because Tim Walz is a guy that understood football and fixing their truck, and he was white. I know of absolutely 0 people who were more inclined to vote for Kamala because of that. This is such a demeaning and idiotic position. So he was just put there because of his, you could say, is this a DEI hire for the Democrat Party? Is he only given preference because of these external things? Are the things that mattered to the Democrats his race and, just his ability to connect with people of that certain race in the general electorate? I don't see anything. He didn't say I was chosen by Kamala because I would have been good at heading up this part of her agenda, or I would have been good at communicating this on the debate stage. He didn't say that. He said he was picked because he could code talk to white guys watching football, fixing their truck, and put them at ease. Are you trying to appeal to racist voters to get them to believe Kamala's not a danger? Are you trying to appeal to sexist voters who wouldn't have voted for a woman? What is this? Is that who you think the Democrat voters are? None of this makes any sense to me. But this is how they think. This is who they are. This is how they operate. It cannot be further from the way that I think the most average people operate. It's certainly not in my scope of reality whatsoever. This is stupid. This is condescending. And if it is the reason he was selected, then they got exactly what they deserved. A big loss in the column because this is stupid. This is patronizing. I've got to take a break, my friends. Sit tight. You're listening here to Conservative Not Bitter Talk. I'm your host, Todd Huff. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. If that is really the reason Kamala selected Tim Walz, if that's really the reason, they thought Tim Walz was a manly man who could talk about football and fixing pickup trucks to white guys, and that would bring them over. They have no idea. They have no idea just how offended the average manly man is with the left's politics. The average manly man is not going to vote for your platform and your agenda because he thinks it's a bunch of bunk. The average manly man isn't going to be tricked into voting for the trans agenda because Tim Walz can get out there and talk football. They don't care that he's a high school football coach. What relevance does any of this have? They don't care that he could work on a pickup truck. They don't care that he's, grew up in a small town in Nebraska or whatever the story is. That's all well and good. Hearing people's stories is fine. But to say that after hearing someone's story and listen to their politics, the reason I chose to vote for a radical leftist is because the guy is a white guy and he's given me permission to vote for the black lady? This is this takes the cake for me. These are his credentials. This is what he's telling you, the decision-making capabilities of Kamala Harris and her campaign, the whole reason and rationale for him being chosen was because he's a white guy who could talk football and help explain or talk to guys about fixing their pickup trucks. I can't get over this. I cannot get over this. And let's say that is necessary. Let's say that it's necessary for them to find a guy who seems like a man's man, knows football. Is Tim Walz that guy? You got to be kidding me. You 100% have to be kidding me. Manly men have very little in common with Tim Walz. I don't care how much football he's coached. I don't care any of that. They have little to do with his party's platform and policies and objectives. They don't want men, biological men, playing sports with biological females and girl sports. They don't want that. They don't believe in a victim mentality, a victim culture. They don't believe in an entitlement culture. They're tired of exactly what I've been talking about here, all of this focus on identity and feelings, and then creating policies and positions and laws on feelings. They don't like having people silence them, telling them that their opinion doesn't matter. They don't like their Second Amendment rights being infringed upon. None of this has to do with pickup trucks or football, Tim Walz. You got to be kidding me. This is beyond Eddie. This is the best of the best. This was the cream rises to the top. This is the cream in the Democrat Party. This is the best they have to offer you. This is asinine how ridiculously stupid this is. But not to be outdone here, we've got some words of wisdom coming from the ever so great governor of the state, the People's Republic, I should say, of California, Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, I got to tell you, is something else. This guy sees an opportunity here to become the president, the nominee for the Democrat Party. And so he's trying to position himself. He realizes he's realized that and I give him a credit for this. The reason the Democrat Party is in turmoil today is because they've gone too far left. And candidly, they've had some bad candidates as well. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who we've been talking about. They've had some really, really bad candidates. They've had some really, really unlikable candidates. Gavin Newsom thinks that he can step into that gap, and he's realized we can't go as far left as we've gone. He sees an opportunity here. He sees how things like Doge have become popular. He knows that the American people are tired of the waste and fraud and abuse and irresponsible actions of our federal government, spending us into oblivion. They've been exposed. He knows this, and so now he's trying to co-opt this movement as well. RedState.com is where you'll find this article. This is in the stack of stuff on our website, written by Mike Miller. Headline here says, stand-up comedy, Newsom claims he's doing Doge but better as California suffers massive deficits. If there's a politician in America more in love with himself than Gavin Newsom, I'm unaware of who it is. In the latest hilarious example, Newsom went full metal stand-up comic on Tuesday when the California Democrat governor claimed he's doing Doge but better as his state continues to suffer massive deficits. Let me know when you stop laughing and we'll continue, he writes. Newsom made the ridiculous claim while announcing that California would adopt all 3 new AI initiatives to make government more efficient, according to Breitbart News. Oh, cool. Elon Musk and Doge Light. Dude, please. Some of this is hard to translate when I read it, but basically he's saying that Gavin Newsom here is trying to say he's effectively the Democrats' version of Elon Musk, and he's running Doge Light. Okay. Since Gavin forgot to mention it, I will. California health care officials told the California state legislature in mid-March that the state will need another $2.8 billion to be able to pay Medi-Cal providers through the end of the fiscal year. That's on top of the $3.4 billion loan for a whopping total of $6.2 billion that the administration told lawmakers earlier in March that it needed to make critical payments for Medi-Cal, the state federal health insurance program for low-income people. The point here is, and he has examples here, you can read them, but the bottom line is, for Gavin Newsom, who's running a state like California, who is at the pinnacle, the prototypical example of irresponsible governance is California. California, there are so many people, and people that have, in some cases, ingenious ideas. You got Silicon Valley, you've got all this tech, and just a lot of people that can be very productive in an economy. In spite of California, California stands as an obstacle to these folks. People love California. California, especially Southern California, beautiful weather, beautiful part of the country. But the state's been mismanaged just for eons with environmental regulations, with taxes. I mean, look at the state income tax. I think it's 13.3% in the state of California. It's mismanaged. They want to give illegal aliens virtually everything they can under the sun, taxpayer funded. It is remarkable, the things that they're doing. And now Gavin Newsom is saying he's doing Doge, but better. This will be one of many. And the more the Democrats realize that their ideas are not good for the American people, have not been accepted, the more Democrats are going to come in and try to co-opt some of these things, just like Gavin Newsom's doing here, and saying, look, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to do what Republicans are doing with Doge to cut government spending, but I'm going to do it the right way, the better way. We're going to secure our border, but we're going to do it more humanely. We're not going to deport children, which of course is misleading and so forth, but that's what they'll do. So Gavin Newsom thinks he's out there being Elon Musk and Doge, only better. These people are crazy, insane, and deceptive, because that, of course, is nothing. It bears no semblance to reality whatsoever, my friends. So before we continue here, I want to tell you, you know that we've done this here, but I want to remind you, maybe that's the better way of saying it, that when we, and I think about this when I think of California, when we do business with people, it's awfully disheartening, or at least aggravating, frustrating, to find out that those folks that we do business with take the money that we gave them to support causes and candidates that we stand against each and every day on this program, each and every day as we try to advance conservative causes. And so that's aggravating and frustrating. And so we thought it would be a good idea to give you a place where you could go to find businesses that are pushing in the same direction you are, that are not going to take the money that you've paid them for goods and services to support leftist causes and leftist candidates. That's called Freedom Marketplace. You can go to find a full listing, a directory there. freedommarketplace.net is the website. It's free. It's a searchable directory of businesses that share your conservative values. And they vowed not to support leftist candidates or leftist causes. Check it out today. freedommarketplace.net. Liberty and business for all. All right, we're at the end here of the second segment. We're going to pause, take a quick time out, my friends. When we come back, we'll wrap up just with one other quick little story update, I guess, if you will. We'll do that on the other side of the break. You are listening here to the home of conservative, not bitter talk. I am your host, the one and only, the ever so beloved Todd Huff. Back here in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. Last segment of this, the second hour of today's program. I want to give you one update. It's going to cover a couple of things here. It pertains to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Just some updates with that. I want to make sure that I keep that out there, because this, of course, this issue's not going away, though the Democrats are realizing that maybe it should go away for them, because they've been losing this issue. Speaking of losing, my friends, I'd like to give you an example of a way that you can lose high cholesterol points. That's through a product called Solti. It's an all-natural way that's been clinically proven to lower cholesterol. It's done this for countless people. May be able to do the same for you. All you have to do is go to their website, Solti.com, S-O-L-T-E-A, Solti.com. Promo code Todd will save you 50% off your first purchase and get you free shipping. Again, the only thing you have to lose are those high cholesterol points. Solti.com, S-O-L-T-E-A, promo code Todd gets you savings. Again, 50% off your first 3-month supply and free shipping. All right. I told you I wanted to give you a quick update about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. First, I want to read or just reference here. This is in the stack of stuff if you want to read the entire article at toddhuffshow.com. This is at, what is the website here? Thebulwark.com. It's taking a moment to load here. Thebulwark.com. Jeffries, talking of Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House of Representatives. Jeffries wants Dems to put an end to the El Salvador trips. Cory Booker and the Hispanic caucus were planning on going, but Democratic leadership seems to want El Salvador trips to stop for a while. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but suffice it to say that they believe that they should continue to advocate, per the article here, for the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, but making the trip is putting an unnecessary, burden, or it's just not resonating with the American people to do this. So they are dialing it back effectively. They're dialing it back. They have tried, I would say unsuccessfully, to make this issue about the due process rights of all of us, of American citizens, when this is clearly something altogether different, when this is clearly something that he's had due process rights. He's had due process rights. He was given a deportation. We've gone through this extensively. They can't make this stick. They can't make the average American think that Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an un-American American hero, as the left has painted him to be. So they're going to dial it back. They don't want to make this the focal point. They know that this makes them really look like they care more about the illegal aliens who are allegedly tied to MS-13, gangs and violence and so forth, who are definitely here illegally. They seem to care about those folks more than they care about Americans who have been hurt directly as victims of crimes, violent crimes, sometimes murdered and raped and so forth. Horrendous, horrific stuff. The Democrats appear optically to care more about the folks who are here illegally and who have a violent past or an alleged violent past, connections to gangs, and they care about American citizens, number one. So, but there's still efforts to get Kilmar Abrego Garcia back into this country. And so that's where I wanted to give you this second quick little update, which just envision if this is what happens. Envision, this is the nationalpulse.com. According to reports here, Kristi Noem, the Secretary of DHS, she's vowed. She says if Kilmar Abrego Garcia is returned, she's going to immediately deport him again. This, I mean, again, I mentioned earlier with Marco Rubio, being bold, being very direct with the media, communicating clearly. I love it. Same thing here with Kristi Noem. Here's what this says. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has reaffirmed the Trump administration's unwavering focus on deporting dangerous migrants, stating that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Salvadoran illegal immigrant deported to a mega prison in El Salvador, would face immediate deportation again if if returned to the U.S. In a CBS News interview on April 30th, that would have been yesterday, Noem stated, quote, "We're focusing on going after the worst of the worst and doing it the right way." Her comments come amid scrutiny over the vetting process for migrants deported under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798, which the administration has used to send hundreds of alleged Venezuelan and Salvadoran gang members to the CECOT facility in El Salvador. So, she says if he comes back, he's being deported. She said, we are following the law. She said, effectively, he's been given due process. Again, this issue of due process, it's disingenuous what the left is trying to get people to believe. The due process to be convicted of a crime and sentenced to prison, the due process rights for criminal trial is different from the due process rights for deportation. Anyway, they know that. They're trying to mislead us, deceive us, gaslight us, everything else, but the administration is standing firm, thankfully. But I got to go, friends. Thanks for listening. SDG.